All right, welcome back to the Carton Show. Let me welcome Plaxico Burress here as always. Obviously, today difficult to handle what took place in Kansas City yesterday during the Super Bowl parade. Their second in as many years out in Kansas City. Just under 1 million people gathered to watch the Kansas City Chiefs, stroll down those main streets in Kansas City and be celebrated as Super Bowl champions. And then at the very end of the parade, as you all know by now, there was another terrible shooting. At least 3 gunmen are in custody, or alleged gunmen are in custody. As of right now, up to the minute, we are being told that one young lady unfortunately lost her life in the shooting. She was a radio DJ out in Kansas City, a mom of 2. 21 others are injured. 8 of those injuries are life-threatening, and obviously medical staff at the local hospitals are tending to those folks. The shooting occurred just outside of what is known as Union Station, which is that major building you saw a lot of the police officers running to, which is always a good reminder for me. When most people run away from those types of things, men and women in law enforcement run towards it and towards the danger, which is why you can't thank them enough for their service. And now we've all seen the video of a couple random guys trying to enjoy the festivities with their families, seeing one of the alleged gunmen running down what looks like a sidewalk there and tackling him, getting him down to the ground, separating him from what looks like a rifle of some sort, while one of the man's wives picks the gun up and throws it off to the side. And then within about a minute, maybe at most, a couple of uniformed police officers do come over and cuff the suspect. They have 3 men now in custody, but a tremendous tragedy in Kansas City as we as a nation now mourn with them at another senseless shooting at a gathering in an American city. And it's become all too commonplace now, obviously, in our country, whether it's a concert in Las Vegas a number of years ago, a nightclub shooting, school shootings, and now here it's a little slice of Americana that we all kind of, get ready for every year, whatever city wins the Super Bowl. And no joke, about 1 million people showing up to watch their heroes come down the street on convertibles and open-air buses and whatnot. And, of course, marred by senseless violence. We've talked about it a little bit. You just joined us, Plaxico. You, of course, watched it yesterday as well. And I want to give you an opportunity just to get a thought or two out on it.
Yeah, I was actually just sitting out for lunch yesterday, having lunch after the show, and sitting beside my guy and looking up at the TV, but the volume wasn't up. And I just tapped. I said, "Man, look how many people out there." And I didn't hear about it until I got home, and I said to myself, "I'm like, wow, it's like this is a family event, basically." And they took this opportunity to use this stage which is a celebratory moment, which is something that hadn't been done. And, I just, you just can't, say enough about it. And obviously, having been through some things and, just understanding, how many people are hurt from it. Yep. And it's really sad for the city. And it just puts a dim light on the whole championship, everything that we've been speaking about.
And it won't change cities' abilities to have these types of celebrations, but it'll change our perspective of going to them. Right. And you're looking over your shoulder and worrying about, am I safe? And what am I going to do if, right? The other side of it, the thing that I took out of it, and I watched a lot of the coverage as you guys did, throughout the day yesterday, with my family as well. And I have a 13-year-old at home who came home, didn't know the news until he got home and watched some of the coverage with me. And that is, you have just about 1 million people there. Mm-hmm. And as much as my heart bleeds for the family of the young woman who was killed and those who are now, fighting for their lives and recovering, and the emotional distress that so many people now are going to be dealing with in the aftermath of the shooting, I also do consider really how fortunate so many people are that if there really were 3 gunmen out there with what appear to be AK-47 type, rifles, it could have been as bad as it was, incredibly worse with the loss of life that could have occurred yesterday. And I can't thank enough the amazing acts of heroism and selflessness of a couple random guys out there with their families. The one guy, wife and kids are at the parade with him and recognizes that guy don't look right, and he's running past me, and oh my God, he's got a gun, and you either react or you don't. And he and a couple other people tackle this dude, get on top of him, get the gun away from him. And when you talk about heroes, we expect our police officers to be heroes. That's the job they sign up for, put themselves in harm's way to protect us. but there's no expectation of a random guy, who's a concrete layer for his job, doing what he did yesterday, and for sure saving God knows how many people by tackling a dude armed and staying on top of him so that he couldn't move until the police officers got to him and arrested him.
Yeah, reportedly it was over 800 law enforcement authorities that was at the parade.
Right.
And to your point, you seriously have to take into consideration that it's no longer a safe place, because even with the Denver Nuggets, right, at the end of their parade there was a shooting, right? And now you're talking about this. And now you're talking about Andy Reid, right? You made up a great point in Union Station.
I should mention that again. Andy Reid has been credited with calming a bunch of young people who were displaced from their families in the mayhem. And I guess he and his wife, Tammy, wound up inside that building right there, Union Station. And this isn't Andy telling the story, these are other people saying, Andy Reid calmed me down. Andy Reid helped out in just making things okay for people that were pounding.
And my point is, and you brought up the tweet by Brittany Mahomes saying, listen, we may have to reevaluate how we're having these parades. We may have to just bring it to the building and celebrate there, because this is back-to-back instances where we're now acknowledging at the end of these parades, there's casualties.
I was at, Plaxico's parade. I hosted it on TV, the local news coverage of your parade when you guys won the Super Bowl after beating the New England Patriots. And I'll never forget, I'm on this huge scaffold thing. It's basically where City Hall is, here in New York City. And you saw it yesterday as well. There are snipers on the tops of buildings just in case. And you saw that at the end of the parade yesterday. And obviously the guys have been apprehended before, a sniper's got to pull the trigger. And then you, of course, have guys reacting to it. Patrick Mahomes, very simple tweet yesterday as he found out, praying for Kansas City. You have Travis Kelce, clearly who was inebriated at the parade, but took a moment, or someone on his team did for sure, heartbroken over the tragedy that took place today. Heart is with all who came out to celebrate with us and have been affected. KC, you mean the world to me. The Chiefs put out a statement. I'll read it. We are truly saddened by the senseless act of violence that occurred outside Union Station at the conclusion of today's parade and rally. Our hearts go out to the victims, their families, and all of Kansas City. The NFL put out a similar statement. We are deeply saddened by the senseless shooting that occurred today near the end of the rally in Kansas City for the Chiefs. Our thoughts are with the victims and everyone affected. We are grateful for the quick and thorough response of law enforcement and emergency personnel, period, stop. And, of course, you can't, say that without also acknowledging the regular, laymen, non-first responders, non-police officers, non-firefighters who tackled this alleged gunman. There has been nothing released yet as to the motives here, if these guys are part of a group, if they acted alone, and why and what the heck they were thinking that drove them to that parade to enact the damage and the violence that they did on the American public and the good people of Kansas City. Look, I do think there's still going to be parades. I think when you win a championship, one of the great things teams do in their connection with their cities, because they are really a public trust. If you were thinking about our relationship with our local teams, the celebration is what we as fans all wait for. It's what we look forward to. Like I said, I was at your parade. I was at, the 2009 New York Yankees parade down the Canyon of Heroes, same kind of scenario. And that's called fandom, what you're looking at right there.
100%. That's
nearly 1 million people not going to work, not going to school, on a random Wednesday, deciding I need to be here to watch this historical sports moment in my hometown, or just I'm a fan of the team and I don't even live in Kansas City, but I need to be there. And the question, of course, is how many people, after watching what took place yesterday, would still feel safe going to an event like that. Here in New York, Thanksgiving, of course. We have the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Every year.
And many other parades down, Fifth Avenue here, whether it's St. Patrick's Day or you name it. And many cities across the country have these mass gatherings of people. And the question is, when something like yesterday happens, do you decide, you know what? I'm going to watch it on TV.
One of the things about the parade that is so special for the fans in particular is because we always talk about get-in prices for the Super Bowl, or get-in prices for the championship. Not everyone can go there.
Yep.
But the parade is a point for the entire community to come out. And a lot of kids are at the parade, and our hearts and feelings and thoughts go out to everyone who's been injured, and obviously Lisa Lopez-Galvin, who lost her life. But the reverberations and the trauma that's caused by people who were there, people who had to run, flee the scene. And even you mentioned your son, Craig. Like, my son said, why did this happen? And I don't have an answer. And we obviously know nothing about the motive at this point, and we'll update you when we have it. But there's no answer for that question from a child that says, well, why did this happen at the parade? And I just have to say, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's the toughest part about it. And obviously, this becomes a much different, conversation, a political conversation, a gun control conversation, which is not meant for us here at this table at this moment. But thoughts and prayers obviously go out. There's also a personal connection to this because for those of you that watch FS1, the First Things First crew, Nick Wright, of course, and Kevin and Chris Broussard were big time on the Kansas City Chief wagon. At least Nick Wright quite famously is, and they were broadcasting live from the parade yesterday and heard the gunshots and were evacuated from the parade and protected in a local hotel that they were staying at. They have all made it back to New York safely, and we'll be on the air today, so they will have kind of a first-person accounting of their emotional roller coaster, I'm sure, having been a part of the parade yesterday as well.
Yeah, I mean, thank God the boys made it home safely. But I think right now, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, it's not their responsibility to heal the community, but there's a responsibility to lead the community and understand that we got to start protecting each other. That's why when you see that guy tackle that one gunman, it shows that, listen, not all heroes wear capes, right? Because that guy didn't have to do that. And so it shows that there's good people out there doing good things.
No doubt. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.